But for more on the coalition's loss now, we are joined on set by Liberal Senator Hollie Hughes. Great to have you on.
Good evening.
Good evening. How we feel? Look, I'll ask you straight out. What happened?
It was an absolute disaster, and anyone who says differently is kidding themselves. And I think Peter Dutton was incredibly gracious in the speech that he gave last night, and I think it shows the character of the man. And I think as we go forward, though, there were plenty of other people who made mistakes, had gaffes, maybe didn't live up to what they were supposed to be doing this election. And so before they start thinking of what their next move is, I think a few of those people need to actually have some deep reflection on their contribution to this loss.
So I'm keen to know who those people are. Who's responsible for this?
Well, I think when you look at the complete lack of policy that was being able to be talked about by candidates, and, you know, I do want to start by saying a lot of good friends lost their seats last night, a lot of candidates who put a lot of work in lost, and also to all of their staff that have just lost their jobs overnight. There's a lot of people that are really hurting at the moment. But everywhere I have spoken to have all told me the same thing. They had nothing to sell. They had nothing to talk about. And I don't think it was a case that a lot of the shadow ministers hadn't done the work. My portfolios, we submitted 7 fully costed policies in October last year to never hear another word back. So whoever was responsible for putting those policy documents together, and I've heard this from other colleagues as well, there seemed to be a vortex of those that were responsible for putting together what should have been a coherent policy position. You're right, no one knew what we stood for. We had no tax plan. We had no economic narrative. And what this government is planning to do to this country with unrealised gains on your superannuation being taxed, capital gains on your family home, no one even knows about this because the economic team were not out there talking about it at any stage. There just seemed to be a one-man show with Dutton, and there were a lot of people that were out there missing in action. They never sold a message, they never sold their own portfolio, they never talked about anything, and a lot of people have a lot of soul-searching to do, I think.
You mentioned one-man Dutton. And look, he should be the Prime Minister of this country because he is a good man. He is a very good man and he genuinely loves this country.
Yep.
What happened from early this year when he was strong, came out, was to the point, could answer basic questions like what is a woman, to last week not being able to answer? What has happened in the last 5 months?
I think your analysis of trying to win the election versus trying to lose the election is actually a really, really good way to put it. People, when they want to vote for someone that they know what you stand for. They want conviction. And they want to know what they're getting. They're not always going to agree with every single thing you say or believe, but if they know who you are and what you're standing for, they're much more likely to support you. Peter Dutton did have a strongman persona. He was in Home Affairs and Defence, and he had kept this country safe. He had done extraordinary work as a minister. And I think trying to wrap him in cotton wool and make him look soft and fluffy, I don't think it was needed for a start. Australians don't want to elect someone to have a beer with. Well, at least that's what I thought they used to do. But they want someone that was going to keep the country strong economically and on national security. And Peter is that person. But by trying to wrap him up and turn him into Mr. Nice Guy, I think they lost who Peter Dutton is and who people know Peter Dutton is. And I made this comment when I was talking to Shari last week. Murray Watt was out there as the attack dog. You know, he was out there constantly, the amount of mud that was flying and the out and out lies. Where was our attack dog? Who was there? And there was a real muzzling by the campaign of people being out there to speak. And I think that's had massive ramifications. I think some of the campaign materials were woeful. I think when you're trying to sell serious economic messages with Muppets as your memes, I think we're feeding into the dumbing down of the political narrative, and this is a really serious issue, what's going to happen over the country. And, you know, I'm going to say it and I'll probably get slammed for it, but this sort of a loss you really don't recover from in 3 years.
I really want to know why certain people were muzzled, but particularly I want to know, was Peter Dutton muzzled or did he choose the path that he ended up taking? What element of blame does Peter Dutton bear for choosing to go careful, careful, careful? Or was he instructed by campaign management that that's how he had to portray himself?
Look, I wasn't part of those conversations, so I don't know. But I have no doubt there was polling being given to him or suggestions being made by those in the campaign unit saying this is what you need to be doing and this is testing well or landing well. If they were telling the truth and our internal polling was saying something very different than what happened on Saturday, then I think we need new pollsters because it is beyond a disaster. It's a disaster for the Australian people because the very small size that will now be there of an opposition is going to lose its effectiveness. And also the Senate. I mean, we've seen people like Perrin Davey lose their seat.
Which is extraordinary.
Extraordinary. I mean, Perrin is spectacular on water, one of the most complex issues in the country. And she's probably one of the very few people that actually understands it, yet she's gone. So I think the Liberal Party needs to, and the National Party probably need to have a really good look that candidates matter, getting good people in, keeping good people in, and making sure that we are always having a team that's up for the fight because I'm looking at some of it now and not thinking there's a lot of new people that are coming in different areas who, well, we'll wait and see, but have yet to demonstrate they're up for that fight.
Just before we let you go, you said that the Libs are now in the wilderness.
Yep.
So what does the next 3 years look like? I mean, there's a lot of soul searching that needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely there is. There's a lot of soul searching over the next 2 weeks because, you know, in effect, Susan Lee has had to step in as acting leader. So I understand we'll all be back in Canberra in 2 or so weeks to re-elect the leadership team.
Who do you want?
Well, you know, I'm not going to give all my cards away, but I can certainly say there's certain people I don't want. And I think the lack of the economic narrative lands very squarely on a few people's shoulders.
So you don't want Angus Taylor?
That would be fair enough to say, yes. I don't think there's any surprise to anyone on that one. I've been public on the record of my assessment of his capabilities. Well, look, and none of them have officially put their hands up yet. And you never know. If it is 6 years before we're back in government, maybe there's some generational change that needs to happen as well. But there was certainly a lot of good people that lost their seats last night that had a very bright future. Were they still there? So it's a little bit difficult to really say who you want to look for when we're not 100% sure who's going to be in the room just yet.
Well, if you want generational change out of those four, Andrew Hastie is the only one who would represent that.
He is. And, you know, there is an article I just saw that they don't think he's actually going to put his hand up. So, you know, it's 2 weeks of soul searching and then after June 30, I won't be there anymore and those guys are going to have to sit in a very, very unpleasant Parliament House. So I think sometimes blessings in disguise do occur.
Maybe.
Hollie Hughes, we appreciate you coming in tonight.
All good.
It's a tough day. It's a tough one.
Look, it's a tough day for a lot of people. And I guess, you know, having lost the pre-selection over a year ago, I've had a bit of time to adjust. Whereas talking to some of my colleagues last night and today, it's been a bit of a rude shot and I really do heart breaks for them.
Yeah. Hollie Hughes, thank you so much for joining us
Thanks,
on the show.
guys.
Really, really appreciate it.